What do you want to do?
Master exam's fine.
Boom. Rock and roll. Okay, read the question. Tell me the answer.
Which of the following would be considered real property? Diamonds, which have been mined, a cell phone, bearing wall, trade fixture. Cell phone.
What's a bearing wall?
A load-bearing wall. It supports the house. Supports the structure of the house.
What's real property?
It's real property is immovable.
So therefore, do you see why that's the answer?
Yes. Yeah. Because you can move trade fixtures. You can move the. Ruben Sina owns a storage building which he leased to Juan from April 8th to May 6th. Juan estates in the property would be estate for years.
What's an estate for years?
A lease that has a specific ending date.
Is a lease personal or real property?
What was that?
Is a lease personal or real property?
Personal.
What's another word for personal property?
To tell real.
There you go.
Okay. Resistant to heat flow.
Okay, read it.
An expensive home that later becomes surrounded by cheaper homes would suffer loss in property value attributable to it's not functional, it's not physical, it's not economic is like outside of your house. I think it would be economic.
Good. What's economic obsolescence?
It's stuff that has to do with anything that's like not on your property, like a neighbor or surrounding property in this case.
Good.
Which of the following types of depreciation would be the most difficult to cure? Residential deterioration, economic functional obsolescence, physical deterioration. So cure, you want to fix it. Functional, you can change that. Physical deterioration, you can always repair. I would say economic. That's hard to change.
So what do you think?
Economic. 'Cause you don't have really control on your neighbors or. Which of the following is not one of the four important elements of value? So that studs.
Okay, so what does that stand for?
Scarcity. I mean, using the options scarcity, transferability, utility, and which of the following is not elements of value? So an element of value would be
So stud, STUD, right?
yes.
So therefore, which one's not one of the elements?
The answer is appreciation. I was just trying to think of the D.
Scarcity, transferability, utility, and demand.
Demand, supply and demand. That's yeah. Yeah. Stud's so much easier than the dust.
Totally. Who cares about dust? Okay, read this. Oh, sorry. I was like,
When a real estate broker speaks of tax shelter, she is referring to tax shelter is shelter. It's protection from taxes, not principal payments, not net income. So I got it between real property tax and income tax. Uh, but a real estate broker is talking about it would probably be real property taxes.
okay, no, by definition, it's income taxes.
Okay. Tax shelter is a general term used to
Yeah, just remember tax shelter, income tax. Okay?
tax shelter income.
Yeah, that's one of those keyword things.
Income tax shelter. Which of the following was created when possession and title do not occur at the same time? Uh, interim occupancy agreement. Which of the following leases covers improvements on adjoining land? Which of the following policies? Definitely not the standard policy. Alta policy. What's Alta? Alta has to do with like titles, I believe. So I don't think it'd be that. Extended policy is just an extension of this.
Good.
Damn.
So I guess what I was getting at is like don't overthink it. You know, extended
Yeah.
like extends to other property.
Yeah.
Right. One of the rules I want you to follow: if you've never heard of it, don't circle it.
Okay.
You gotta trust in your studying.
Definitely. I have a hard time doing that.
Yeah,
I second guess so much.
Because sometimes they'll purposely put words in that mean nothing. They just sound very good. But they really don't mean anything.
The law that requires real estate contracts to be in writing to be enforceable is the I always get these mixed up. Limitations or frauds. So frauds, limitations. I would statute of frauds.
Good. Remember, always go with your first impulse. Okay.
Yeah.
Limitations: time, fraud, writing. And please remember, study these key words like that. You know, fraud, writing, limitation, time, stud, scarcity, transferability, utility, demand. These really short memory techniques.
Definitely. A mortgage clause which states that should the borrower sell the property, the entire balance of her mortgage would be due immediately is known as the due on sale clause.
Good.
The annual percentage rate APR is defined by the Federal Truth in Lending Law as relative cost, credit, in percentage terms, total of all costs. No, the total of only the indirect cost. No, the total of only the direct costs. Relative cost of credit express.
That one?
No, I was just reading it again. Sorry, that's not it. Because the relative cost would be total. Yeah, I'll go with that one actually. Relative cost.
What do you know about the APR?
APR is just a set number that
It's meant to give a simple, easily comprehensible number to people.
Yeah.
rather than giving all these different fees and people are kind of overwhelmed. That's the whole point.
Usefulness of the cost approach would be limited when an appraiser is approaching a new structure appropriate to its site and use, appraising an old structure with many functional deficiencies. There exists an unusual inactive real estate market appraising for proposed construction. Usefulness of the cost approach would be limited. So limited would not be useful. Cost. There's appraiser. An appraiser is approaching a new structure appropriate to its site and use.
So the cost approach essentially is there to see how much would it cost to build a building brand new.
And this structure is already new, so they already know how much, really. Okay. Okay.
What I want you to remember for the cost approach, it has to do with new buildings, not old. Okay, because the full name's the cost replacement approach. Okay.
Okay. The cost. All right. All right. The marginal tax rate is defined as the tax rate which is applied to the next dollar earned, the tax rate which is applied to the last dollar earned, the 29% tax rate, 22% of gross income. That would be 22% of gross income.
Okay, so it's just the next dollar earned. There's no fun tricks for this, just like the income tax one with the tax shelters. It just is what it is.
All right.
You just gotta remember it.
Yeah, I'm not doing well.
You're doing fine. Don't worry about it. When's your test?
I haven't even scheduled it yet.
Don't worry about it. You got plenty of time. So, what I'd also like you to know is what we're doing. When we do these questions, what I'm waiting for is just to fill up on the right screen. You see that? How there's 1, 2, 3, 4. When it gets down to here, I want you to go back and then do all these on the right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then you clear that. You make sure you can get all of them right, and then you do it again.
Okay.
Because as you'll see in a minute, we could go back and do those. My point is, I don't want this list to get too long. Mm-hmm. The reason we have this is so you could review it before finishing your exam.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I want it to be relatively fresh in your mind.
Mm.
So, way to keep note is when it goes off the screen, it's time to go back to those. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the programs, like, they only give the question you got wrong when you finish. And for me, that didn't work because I wanted you to be able to see the questions when it's still relatively recent.
Mm.
Because we explained a concept, for example, that tax shelter, or this marginal tax rate. If you look at it 2 hours from now, it's brand new and you don't remember anything. Now you kind of apply what we just talked about.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I got PrepAgent, and because I did my courses through Real Estate Express, and their review program's terrible, so I had to get something else. And their questions review was the best option.
I mean, and we did, not to toot my own horn, but obviously it's my program. We put a lot of effort and went through a lot of feedback with people when we set it up like this.
Yep. That's so nice. And you can, which is really nice. Another thing, Real Estate Express you can't do is provide feedback on questions. Because some of their wording is just terrible, and they'll never know because nobody can tell them.
Yeah, I wish I could show you the feedback we get sometimes.
I'm sure it's insane.
Yes. All right, here we go.
All right. A change in flight patterns that caused a loss in property value would be an example of not functional. Again, economic, because it's outside of like your control, outside of your property. I mean, it's your. Yeah. Which of the following represents the min time period for an exclusive right to sell listing? Which of the following represents whatever is agreed upon, or 6 months? Ooh, 6 months. 6 months.
Remember, at the end of the day, it's a contract. Don't confuse not normal industry standards with the law. For example, what's a normal commission a real estate agent gets?
3%.
Is that the law or is that industry standard?
Industry standard.
What's the law about a commission?
It's negotiable.
Exactly. All right, same thing with this. It's whatever's agreed upon.
All right.
In fact, if you tell everybody it's 3% and it has to be 3%, you're violating a certain act. Do you know what act that is?
Antitrust laws. The
Man,
Sherman.
There you go. Now you're on a roll.
When owners of real property hold title as a tenants in common. When owners of real property hold title as a tenants in common, the one who lives along us winds up as the sole owner. The individual owners give up their rights to will their interest in the property. Each co-owner's interest may be conveyed separately. All co-owners must have an equal interest in the property when owners of real property hold title as tenants in common. Each of the co-owners' interests may be conveyed separately. The individual owners give up their right to will their each of the co-owners' interests may be conveyed separately, because only.
Good. Do you understand why you got that right?
Yeah, because tenants in common, they can do whatever they want with their property. But with the other one, which is tenants in common and joint tenancy, like if someone dies, their part or their share would go to the survivors. It would go. They can do what they want. They can leave it to someone. They can give it to the other owner. They can do whatever they want.
I have a question for you. You ready?
Yep.
Which one would you take with a corporation, and why?
With a corporation?
Yep.
I would take tenants in common with a corporation.
Because
I don't want them to have my share of the property once I pass away. I'd want my family to get it.
Well, also corporations don't die.
Yeah, I kind of missed that part.
So you can't. They dissolve. Yeah. It's a different set of rules.
I'll remember that now because of that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. What is personal property? Which of the following is true of a second mortgage? It's usually at a higher interest rate.
Why?
Because they need. It's a second mortgage, so the bank is taking a bigger risk, so they need the unit.
What I was looking for was that word risk, which you said perfectly. Good job.
Thank you. Usura most nearly means illegal rates. Yeah, illegal rates of interest.
More commonly known as loan sharking.
Yep. An actual agency relationship that arises by the actions of the parties rather than express written. I already know this, and that would be. Oh no, I don't. I thought I had an answer in mind. An actual agency relationship that arises by the actions of the parties rather than the express written agreement is called. Oh, I do. I just didn't read the whole answer. Assemblable implied agency.
Good.
A deed can only be recorded in one county. If recorded, will not give the grantee the usual protection of recording laws. Does not have to be recorded. Title transfer, when recorded, gives an actual notice of its content. So a deed is can only be recorded in one county. If recorded, will not give the grantee the. If recorded, if recorded, will not give the grantee the usual protection of recording laws if it's a quitclaim deed. Does not have to be recorded.
Yeah, that's just one of those memorization ones.
Recorded transfer title. So a deed is
Evidence of the transfer.
evidence of the transfer.
Right, so when you sign the documents, it's transferred. It doesn't need to be recorded with the county records.
Okay. Grant deeds are considered officially executed inside the grantor. Alright. Which of the following would cause a grant deed to be invalid at its inception? It was not acknowledged. Legal incompetence.
Do you know your 4 essentials of a valid contract?
They have to be competent. They have to.
Competent parties, lawful object, consideration, and mutual consent.
I read it too fast. I didn't read. I read competence of the grantor instead of incompetence. The grantor is the key word there.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Now do you see that on the right it's full?
Yeah.
So now we want to go through these ones.
Okay. So real property is something that is not going to be moving, so it's going to be the bearing wall.
And the more general explanation is anything that goes with the property.
Yeah.
Real property goes to the property, personal property goes to the person.
So a lease is personal property, and and end in a state for years. It has a specific end or beginning and end. And chattel is cattle. It moves. So all of the options are correct.
And you see why we're going over it recently? Because you remember what we spoke about.
Exactly. That helps a lot.
And I know we're speaking about it, but even when doing yourself, you do your research on why you got it wrong. It's relatively fresh in your mind rather than just starting from completely blank.
Exactly. When you think of tax shelter, you have to think of income tax. So the cost approach is for new properties. So it would be appraising an old structure with many functional deficiencies. Old structure. Yeah.
Good.
The marginal tax rate is the next dollar earned, not the last. Not 22. It's the next. Industry standard versus a law. It's whatever is agreed upon by the seller and the broker. A deed, it doesn't have to be recorded to transfer title. It's just proof that it did transfer title. So it does not have to be recorded to transfer title. It would be the legal incompetence of the grantor.
So clearly you're a pretty smart guy, and I say that because you're able to conceptualize and figure out the answers and remember this stuff.
Yeah.
So if you do the memorization part, you're going to be good to go.
For me, it's just like repetitiveness. If I did the test, if a practice test 5 times, I would be set. It's just I gotta get down and do it,
I just don't want you memorizing the questions and answers.
Mm-hmm. You gotta memorize the concepts, not just be a robot.
And you're smart enough you can understand the concepts, so you can actually do well. And my hope for you is not only do well on your exam, but be able to apply these concepts to after you pass. And a lot of people, I say, learn later, pass now. But from hearing you rationalize these answers, I think you can learn to the level of not only pass, but take some of this knowledge into your career after.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
So yeah. So what would you like? Do you want to do more of them, or what would you like to do?
Could we do the contract practice exam? Because I took a proctored exam for Real Estate Express, and there was a bunch of questions in that, and I was not very competent in that.
Let's go.
None of the following would automatically terminate an offer to buy real property except an inquiry by the offeree to whether the offeree accepted the terms. See, none of the following would automatically terminate an offer. Rejection of the offer by the offeror. Offeree. Offeree is the one getting
the offer.
Offer not receives the house. Offeree receives the offer. Okay, that was just me not thinking it through. Which of the following is an acceptable termination date for an enforceable exclusive listing of residential real property? Which of the following is an acceptable termination date for an enforceable exclusive listing for residential? Whenever the loan is funded, is then it's done. No, 90 days.
Do you understand why?
Not particularly.
Because that's at a specific time. The rest of these are ambiguous. You don't know when rescission would happen. You don't know when the loan will be funded. You don't know when construction will be ended. This is 90 days after signing. It's a specific date.
Okay, so it has to be from a specific date, so it'd be 90 days from that.
Right. I can't say termination date is enforceable after Jane gets coffee. Well, when the hell is Jane going to get coffee?
You don't know. Okay.
And you see how that one's ambiguous. You don't know when it's going to be funded.
You have no idea, yeah. Okay. Which of the following was created when possession and title do not occur at the same time? Interior and occupancy. We just got that one. Which of the following statements about options is false. The optionee does not have any rights in the land. A lease option is a unilateral contract. The option binds optionee performance. A lease option is unilateral. Because union is just doing one favor. The option binds the optionee to performance.
So that's true. A lease option is unilateral, which is false. And it binds. Remember, an option, by definition of the word option, you're not binding.
Yeah, I'm reading too fast. I just gotta slow down a little bit. I just skipped over the word false. An option results in a commission to the broker if the optionee does not exercise the option, requires the optionee to complete the purchase, gives the buyer a lien on the property, keeps an offer open for a specified period of time. We just talked about this. I would say keeps an offer open for a specified period of time.
Excellent.
Taking test. Long until you're done.
Safety clause is found in a listing agreement.
What is a safety clause?
A safety clause is just telling that it's just protection. If the buyer, the seller, buyer backs out, that the salesperson would still be compensated.
No. So what it is if you find a buyer and the buyer makes the offer after the listing expires, so you still get the commission.
That protects you from.
Yeah. During that time, you can't find a new buyer because the listing expired, but you can close deals with the buyers you already found. And usually it's about 2 weeks, but it's whatever's agreed upon.
Okay, and that is negotiable. How long the safety clause is for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. A contract which, according to the statute of frauds, must be in writing in order to maintain a court action for enforcement is employment of business opportunity to sell stock, a bill of sale on real property, the employment of a broker to exchange leases on a propertized zone for retail, any agreement which is not performed within 1 year. A contract which, according to the statute of frauds, must be in writing in order to maintain a court action for enforcement is. The questions in a contract which, according to the statute of frauds, must be in writing in order to maintain a court action for enforcement is. The employment of a broker to exchange leases on a property zone for retail? No, it's an employment business opportunity. Any agreement should not be.
What are the exceptions to statute of frauds?
It has to be within the 1 year.
Yeah, things under 1 year can be exempt from it.
All of the following are essentials of each and every contract except lawful object.
What are the 4 essentials of a valid contract that we discussed before?
Parties have to be comparable, mutual consent, or capable, not comparable. Has to be in writing, and Enforceability. I need to write this down. Capable parties. Mutual consent. Lawful objects. Consideration. So the lawful object, that is just what the contract's about?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it can't be a contract to kill somebody.
Yeah. Proper writing. The law that requires real estate contracts to be in writing to be enforceable is the frauds is time limitations writing, so statute of limitations.
You got it mixed up there.
No. Limitations, a limit. A limit is time. There's a time limit.
Okay, gotta remember that. All right.
To assign a contract for the sale of real estate means to transfer one's rights under the contract, record the contract with the county's recorder's office, permit another broker to act as an agent for the principal, allow the seller and buyer to exchange positions. To assign a contract for the sale of real estate. Transfers one's rights under the contract. Transfers one's. Maybe it's the record the con. Oh, okay.
Don't doubt yourself.
Albert is a tenant and agrees to perform certain repairs for Bob, who is the owner. Despite repeated promises, Albert fails to perform the repairs. Bob then writes up a contract and compels Albert to sign it by threatening to evict him if he does not. Such contract would be so that contract would be under duress, I believe. So that illegal or voidable? I mean, threatening someone is illegal. I mean, but it's eviction, not like a... Bob then writes up a contract and compels Albert to sign it by threatening to evict him if he does not. No, that would be an enforceable contract because the agreement was there in the first place.
The moment somebody's under duress, it makes it voidable.
This is not going. Oh.
Because Albert still has the right to continue with the contract if he wants.
Okay.
Okay, now we completed this side, so we want to go over these ones on the right.
Okay. None of the following would automatically terminate an offer to buy real property except rejection of the offer by the offeree. Rejection.
My bad.
There we go.
There you go.
Which of the following is acceptable termination date? So this, it has to be a specific date. So it's from when the listing agreement is signed, because you know it's signed on a specific date.
Good.
This one, I have to read the question again. Which of the following statements options is false? The option binds because option doesn't bind at all. That's false. Option E binds and option E to the performance. Final answer.
Funny you say final answer. I just watched Slumdog Millionaire the other day.
Yes.
You see that movie where it's like final answer?
Oh.
Three Musketeers, final answer. It's a great movie.
A contract which, according to the statute of frauds, must be in writing in order. Any agreement which is not performed within 1 year, because frauds is time. All of the following are essentials of each and every contract. I need to think about the essentials of a contract. Capable parties is definitely one. Mutual consent, consideration, and lawful object. Yes. And so the answer would be proper writing. Capable, mutual, consideration, lawful.
Remember this?
Yes. Capable, mutual, lawful consideration. Capable, mutual, lawful consideration. Capable, mutual. I gotta pound that in my head this week. The law that requires real estate contracts to be in writing. Time limit. So it's statute of frauds. Awesome. Albert is a tenant, so he's under duress. Anything ever under duress has to be it's enforceable, but it's also voidable. So voidable is the answer.
Good. Excellent. So at this point, we went over a bunch of them. Most importantly, you see the process I want you to go through.
Yeah. You just have to fix your mistakes.
Yeah. And you need to go through the vocabulary. Once you do that, you're going to be fine. You should be using that outline that we put together.
Okay. And just go through that like 3 times a day, 4 times a day.
And try and fill it in from memory. Okay. When you can't...
I filled it out once and then filled in what I didn't get, but I'll try to fill it out just myself.
Exactly. The goal is to be able to do it so many times that you don't need any help to fill it out.
Okay. All right, Joe. I really appreciate your time today.
All right. Sounds good. So keep in touch, okay?
For sure.
All right.
Appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye-bye.